aliens learned the hard way that playground swings belong to fathers. For centuries the galaxy had trembled at the name Krathel. He was the apex predator of the Orion Rift, a towering, eight-limbed terror whose claws sliced through starship hulls and whose breath could immobilize prey with chemical accuracy. When Krathel entered an arena, entire species went silent, knowing the poor soul across from him would vanish from existence in moments. Yet on a calm afternoon in a suburban neighborhood, he froze solid because one ordinary human dad raised his voice. Had started as a routine survey. Alien hunter had been sent to Earth to scout possible dangers and claim trophies worthy of his legend. Humans were footnotes in galactic records. Stubborn, adaptable, but unremarkable beside the galaxy's countless warlike races. Krathel landed his ship, camouflaged, behind a baseball field during practice. His sensors caught hundreds of pulses, laughter, shouts, the echo of bats launching balls skyward. Simple prayer, so he assumed. He crept closer, cloak active, until his focus fixed on one figure. A man in his late 40s, broad yet slightly stooped, stood behind the chain-link fence with folded arms. His daughter stepped up to bat, helmet too big, stance uncertain yet determined. The father's voice carried across the field, confident and steady. Keep your eye on the ball, kiddo. You've got this. The sound made Krathel's second stomach twist strangely. The pitcher threw the girl swung and missed. Some parents clapped kindly, but she looked crushed. Then her father's voice cracked the air like thunder. Perfect form. Next one's yours. Instantly she straightened, adjusted her stance, and glared at the pitcher as if armored by his certainty. Krathel tilted his head. No venom glands, no spines, no weapons. Yet with only his voice, this man had turned defeat into resolve. The hunter logged the data, intrigued. But intrigue became shock when another parent muttered criticism about the girl's swing. The father turned, brow furrowed, lips tight. She's learning, he said low and edged like a plasma blade. The parent blinked and fell silent. A chill rippled across Krathel's Aiden. He had faced cannons and war beasts of Titan Nebula, but never had he seen such power drawn only from protective instinct. Later, the girl connected with the ball, a crack echoing as it streaked past the pitcher. The father erupted with such joy that birds scattered from the trees. "That's my girl," he roared. Heads turned, smiling, clapping. The girl beam. Krathel's limbs stiffened. He had sought prey but found a creature who forged warriors from children with nothing but love and volume. His breathing faltered. Was this the hidden weapon of humanity? His cloak faltered as he stepped forward, revealing his hulking frame. Gas swept the crowd. Mandibles clacked, eyes burned like molten copper. Parents grabbed children, coaches shouted. The father only moved between them and the monster's shoulders squared. "Not today." His voice was steady now, not loud but resolute. Krathel froze. Instincts screamed to strike, yet his limbs refused. The man radiated the fury of protection multiplied tenfold. Children peeked from benches, eyes wide. The girl gripped her bat, ready to charge if needed. Krathel's legendary claws trembled. His sensors blurred with data. Adrenaline spiking, hearts racing. All in unison of fear and defiance. The father's heartbeat thudded calm, steady as a war drum. Krathel had fought killers, machines, champions, yet this ordinary man radiated something beyond measure. His translator crackled. "You are unarmed. You are weak." "Why am I?" But the words broke. The father took step forward. "'Cause these kids are mine to protect. You think claws scare me? Teeth mean nothing when my daughter is behind me. One more step and you'll learn why even the fiercest hunters never challenge a parent." The silence was suffocating. Crathel's mind replayed every conquest, every trophy. None compared to this frozen moment, shackled not by weapons but by something older and far stronger. His limbs locked, betrayal of fear flooding his body. For the first time in centuries, the apex hunter trembled. Then, absurdly, a baseball rolled and tapped his armored foot. Child's voice piped, "Ah, Mr. Alien, could we have our ball back?" Crathel looked down, mandibles twitching. The father never flinched. Slowly, with claws that had ripped apart war machines, Crathel bent and picked up the ball, handing it over with trembling care. The child smiled. "Thanks." Gasps turned to laughter. Relief washed the field. The father, eyes locked on Crathel, simply said, "Good choice." The hunter shuddered, retreating step by step. He could have destroyed them all, yet destruction meant nothing beside the unstoppable force of parental love and authority. For the first time, Crathel fled, not because he was outmatched but because he had glimpsed something beyond calculation. The galaxy's deadliest predator now carried a scar not on flesh but in memory, one human father who refused to yield. Far above Earth's atmosphere, aboard his silent ship, Crathel replayed the moment. Over and over, Crathel replayed the memory again and again, baffled by how one ordinary human had unraveled him with nothing more than a raised voice and paternal fury. The galaxy's most feared hunter had never retreated before. His name was etched into the chronicles of dozens of worlds, his terror sung in trembling chants by survivors. Yet now he prowled the deck of his ship in silence, claws flexing uselessly, mandibles twitching. Each time the echo of that father's voice returned, he had crushed armies, devoured beasts of legend, and turned villages into trophies. None of those encounters haunted him like this one. His sensors replayed the human's roar over the ship's speakers. "That's my girl." The phrase made his nerve fibers spasm. He snarled, gouging the bulkhead with his claws, but the violence brought no relief. He had not merely been stopped, he had been undone. An unarmed man in sneakers and a faded cap. The Hunter Council would demand answers. Whispers of him abandoning prey would crush his legacy. Already he could hear the mocking screeches of rival hunters. He swore then he would return, not for trophies but for understanding. Humanity's hidden weapon lay in its parents. It had to be studied before it bred. Meanwhile, the neighborhood tried to resume normal life. Coaches restarted practice. Parents calmed their children. But the tale had already leapt across phones, group chats, and local reports. Alien invades Little League, chased off by furious dad. Journalists debated whether to laugh or sound alarms. Father Mark Holstead shrugged it off. "I just did what any parent would do. You stand between danger and your kids." Yet everyone who had heard him that day knew there was more in his voice, something even a monster had obeyed. His daughter Lily strutted at school like she had inherited invincibility. "My dad scared off an alien just by yelling," she boasted. Teachers doubted, but officials confirmed something had landed in the park. Details carefully avoided. Children turned it into playground games, one pretending to be the alien, the other summoning dad shields to repel it. Mark groaned but secretly smiled. Crathel returned 2 nights later, cloaked, not to strike but to observe. Mark's home was ordinary. Peeling paint, an unmown lawn, a rusting grill on the porch. Yet inside, chaos ruled in ways the hunter couldn't fathom. Kids argued about homework, a dog barked at shadows, and Mark steered the storm with a spatula in one hand and a phone at his. When glass shattered, he raised his voice just slightly, instantly silence. The alien froze again. What sorcery was this? No venom, no blades, no armor. Yet the man's authority bent the atmosphere itself. Even Crathle's translator stuttered, unable to define a tone that balanced affection with command. He logged every sound. When Mark knelt to bandage his daughter's knee, his expression softened into something Crathle could not name: care. Without weakness, the hunter pressed to the window, mandibles clicking in awe. Curiosity deepened when Mark joined a weekend parent meeting at the community center. Crathle shadowed him, cloaked, watching adults debate field trips and bake sales. This was no council of warriors. Yet when arguments escalated, Mark lifted a hand. His calm, steady voice cut through the noise. Instantly, all fell quiet. Hunters used shock nets and sonic howls to dominate. This man needed only fatherhood. Crathle shivered. The power wasn't unique, it was shared by every parent. The potential was terrifying. Imagine human armies of parents halting fleets with bedtime commands, or mothers silencing warships with threats of punishment. His limbs trembled at the thought. Determined, Crathle built a simulation on his ship, filling it with holograms modeled from his recordings. But no configuration reproduced the paralysis. Authenticity was required. He needed direct confrontation. So he returned in daylight, bold this time, striding into the park where kids played. Panic erupted. Parents screamed, clutching children, scattering like birds. But Mark was already walking forward, a sandwich in hand, brow furrowed. "You again," he said flatly. Crathle froze. Children gasped, pointed. Some even cheered. "Dad's back at it." Mark dropped his sandwich, squared his chance. "What are you doing here?" His tone wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Crathle's mandibles clattered as he forced words. "I must know why you stop. No weapon, no armor, yet I cannot move." Mark crossed his arms. "It's called being a dad. You mess with my kid, you get the voice. Simple as that." "The voice," Crathle echoed, recording the phrase. "You've hunted across the stars, haven't you? Then hear this. Nothing is more terrifying than a parent defending their child. Doesn't matter what claws you swing, that's a battle you'll never win." The alien quivered, torn between attack and surrender. To his shock, Lily stepped out from behind her father, bat in hand. "You should quit scaring people," she said bravely. "If you want to hang out, just ask." Mark started to protest, but her words struck Crathle harder than any weapon. Children, fearless, trusting, bold enough to invite the galaxy's deadliest predator. Play. His creed cracked. He stumbled back, overwhelmed yet strangely pulled forward. For the first time, Crathle wondered not how to conquer but how to belong. Mark hadn't expected to negotiate with the universe's greatest hunter in grass-stained sneakers, but here he was. Parents still clutched their children, half ready to flee, half ready to film. Mark stood firm. His daughter remained at his side, bat balanced across her shoulders like both shield and crown. Alien loomed, mandibles twitching. His stance had shifted. Not dominance, hesitation. "I do not understand this," Crathle rumbled. "I conquer worlds, break armies, yet when you guard offspring I freeze." Mark drew a breath, glancing at the wide eyes of every child. You hunt because you can, because you're stronger, scarier. But you don't know real strength. Real strength is doing anything for people you love. That's why I stood, without blinking. Not because I'm stronger, but because he gestured to Lily, matters more than my fear. The alien's vast frame shifted uneasily. This is power. Call it love. Call it devotion, Mark replied. But you felt it. That's why you stopped. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Parents nodded, others clutched tighter. But every gaze locked on the standoff. Crathall's mandibles clicked softly, a sound of confusion, maybe even awe. He had catalogued hundreds of emotions, but this was the first that left him paralyzed. Then Lily stepped forward again. You don't have to be scary. You could just play with us. She offered her bat. Here. The hunter stared at the small stick. Fragile, useless. Yet the gesture carried weight beyond calculation. His claws twitched. Slowly, delicately he accepted. The bat looked absurd in his grip. Children giggled nervously, then louder. Swing it, one boy shouted. Before anyone could stop him, Crathall lifted the bat. A ball was tossed under hand, and with a clumsy arc he swung. The ball soared into the clouds. Gas exploded into cheers. Kids leapt. Parents laughed in disbelief. Lily clapped. Mark shook his head. Great. Now he's better at baseball than half the dads. For the first time in his existence, Crathall made a sound that wasn't a roar. Rough, jagged, uncertain, but laughter. The predator feared across galaxies now. Stood in a park laughing with children. The universe shifted. News spread beyond Earth. Galactic networks buzzed. The apex hunter stopped. Not by weapons but by something alien. Parental love and the courage it birthed. In children, empires whispered. Others grew wary. If one human father could paralyze him, what if legions of parents raised their voices at once? Crathall no longer cared for reputation. He lingered above Earth, not as conqueror, but as guest, returning often to the park. He learned the strange rituals of play, how stern glances dissolved arguments, how hugs healed wounds, how bedtime tales carried more power than plasma. He abandoned trophies, collecting instead laughter, games, and the warmth of families who welcomed him not as hunter but learner. Mark never thought himself a hero, just a dad doing what dads do. Yet each time he saw the alien sitting cross-legged while children clambered over his armored body, like a jungle gym, something settled in his chest. Humanity hadn't only survived another threat, it had taught the galaxy. And Crathall finally understood why he had frozen. It wasn't claws versus defiance. It was the revelation that humanity's strength lay not in weapons but in ordinary love. One evening at sunset, the hunter bowed his head. I came for trophies. Leave with more. I have learned why even the fiercest stop when a parent rises. Is the greatest power I have faced. Mark clapped him on the shoulder. Welcome to the family, big guy. And children's laughter carried into the twilight, echoing across a universe that would never again underestimate the humans who protect their own.